What's up, everybody? Alex here. Welcome back to another video, and welcome to, a contest entry of sorts, but really wanting to dive into some compilations. So let's get the contest thing out of the way first. This is a video for one of my good friends on YouTube and in the vinyl community, Jack, over at Vinyl Martini. A lot of us know Jack. I got a chance to meet Jack in person last summer. This is like an overused cliche in my opinion to describe really cool people, but he really is like salt of the earth. Like what you see is what you get. One of the nicest, coolest, smoothest, most good looking people out there. He's just a man, just one of the nicest people ever, very supportive, great channel, great content, and I love Jack to death. And so he's doing a contest celebrating 3 years on YouTube, which is just amazing. You know, I just celebrated a year, he's celebrating 3 years, and that's awesome. And what I really actually appreciate about this is that he's not giving away, a gift certificate or, all these different things like go buy more records or whatever. Jack is a philanthropist. I know when he does contests, he always has some kind of philanthropic focus to it. And so he has already made a donation in the name of the vinyl community to a local food bank, which is obviously so important, especially around the holidays. So kudos to Jack. Just amazing. This isn't about the contest, but this is about supporting Jack in his 3 years. And I think a cool topic that I haven't really talked about, and that's comps or compilations. So, a lot of different ways to think about, I guess, compilations, right? You have like your greatest hits, which I kind of have some of those. You have a compilation in the sense of it's like a various artists compilation. Where, I got a couple of these where it really is a compilation of a number of different artists. And then I kind of have a couple of these where it's like the twofer, right? It is like a band blows up and gets kind of famous, and then they go back in time and they're like, oh, they're famous now? Let's ride that high and do some kind of compilation of like the early shit that nobody cared about. So this is kind of a pile I have. I hope you enjoy this. This is kind of all over the place. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. First and foremost, before I get into it, we're not drinking a beer tonight, but it is around the holiday season. And so today I'm drinking some spiked eggnog. It's like that pre-mixed Evan Williams stuff. Truthfully, it's not very good. It's not. If I was gonna do spiked eggnog, I'd like to do it homemade. But such is life. Did sprinkle a little bit of nutmeg in there. What are your thoughts, people? Are we eggnog people? What are we? It's better than it was when I had it a few days ago. Okay, let's dive into some comps. So first and foremost, this won't surprise people who know me. I am all in on coal mine records. And really, for them, a lot of it started with sort of the comps. These compilations right here, Soul Slabs, they've released 3 of these now. I know a 4th is on their way, might be coming next year. But these sort of compilations of coal mine artists called Soul Slabs. And so I know I talk about coal mine all the time. Independent record label out of Loveland, Ohio, that really focuses in on sort of new soulful sounds, some funk, a little bit R&B. If you're curious on coal mine, you've liked how much I've pimped them out over the year or whatever, the perfect place to start is with their Soul Slabs. There are 3 volumes. I think they're all doubles, and I think volume 2 might be a triple. It's more of a box set. But if you just want to dive in, don't know where to start, they're really inexpensive. They're double LPs. I want to say they're $25 or something. I would say jump into the Soul Slabs. That will get you a good idea of what you're dealing with in coal mine world. And I'll go pretty quick here because I don't want the video to be too long. On the complete other side of this was a cool comp that was released of a compilation of all this stuff. Well, not all this stuff, but a lot of the great stuff that Sid Barett did, both in his time in Pink Floyd, as well as his solo career with, was it just Sid or just Barrett and then Mad Clap Laughs, I think. There's some good stuff on here. Obviously, Arnold Lane, See Emily Play, stuff like that were his sort of standards in Piper at the Gates of Dawn era Pink Floyd, but then obviously a lot of the solo stuff here too. So it is a double LP. I want to say this was like curated and produced by David Gilmour. A really cool comp here. An introduction to Sid Barett. Very cool comp if you're interested in that sort of thing. Here is a band that I guess sort of... I'm not going to say they never really blew up per se, but in 1969 and 1970, they released 2 albums that really kind of truly put them on the map. SF Sorrow and Parachutes, and I'm talking about the Pretty Things. But early, you know, they sort of came out of, you know, similar to what the Stones were doing in the mid 60s. You know, they were around and doing that sort of beat music back in England, 1964, 1965. They moved to like a poppier, sort of psychedelic, Beatle-y type sound, again in the late 60s with those 2 records I mentioned earlier. But in the 1970s, Sire, I believe, released this comp, a double LP, of a lot of their early stuff. So this is called The Vintage Years from the Pretty Things. So if you're interested in the Pretty Things, but you don't want to go back and have to buy those first 4 or 5 early records to really get it, this is kind of a cool comp to get, you know, a taste of what all those records were. Kind of in the same boat of let's issue the comp for the band that no one cared about at the time, but now they're kind of big, so let's go back and make a little bit of money. Here's an interesting one. It's called Come On Everybody from UFO. Now this is a weird pressing. I think this might be a German press or something like that, or Holland maybe in those days, but this is a compilation of stuff from their first 2 records. So a lot of people think that UFO started with Michael Schenker on Phenomenon, but it didn't. They released 2 albums before that that are really spacey, psychedelic, very, very different than what would come in that sort of Schenker era. And of course, on those first 2 records, you know, I say no one cared. I know people cared, but they certainly did not blow up. Michael Schenker joins the band. They released that streak of 5 or 6 records that are all amazing. And then later they reissue this as sort of the, you know, let's look back at UFO during their spacey era before Michael Schenker was in the band. And it's cool. Now, I think one of the best places for compilations, bar none, is Record Store Day. I mean, Record Store Day is releasing a ton of comps every single time. And I think this was a great one that was done several years ago here, and it is Chicago, the Blues Today. This is a triple LP. I think this has the whole, you know, what do you call, you know, the audio file treatment. Yeah, here we go. All analog mastering from the original stereotapes from Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. You got everybody. You got the Junior Wells Chicago Blues Band, Jimmy Cotton Blues Quartet, Johnny Young Southside Blues Band. A really cool comp of a whole bunch of old school, you know, blues from Chicago from way back in the day, and a comp. This is the type of stuff I think is really cool, right? Like it allows you to dip your toes into some great stuff, get a feel for it, figure out who you like, who you relate to, all that good stuff. So this was a cool Record Store Day release, but I think it's also widely in print now, although I think it came out in 2021, so about 3 or 4 years ago now. But yeah, great stuff there. These are some really great comps. I know a lot of people like, as do I, from Ride and Easy Records, which is both a label and sort of a store in a sense, but I guess more of a label specifically, and that is the Brown Acid series. This is the first trip. I just want to show the first one. They're up to 20 trips now. So these are compilations that are compiled and curated by, I think his name's Daniel, over at Ride and Easy Records, that specializes in that sort of late 60s, early to mid 70s, underground, hard rock, proto metal, like that type of, you know, think of like your Surlord Baltimores or your Blue Cheers or, you know, whatever, that type of stuff, but super underground. But they released 20 of these comps now. And I just think it's cool. What I really love about these is on the back, not only do they give you the name of the band and the song, obviously, on the track list, but they also say where they're from. And so I always look at these, figuring out, you know, who's from Ohio, so I can feel good about that, do a little bit of Ohio research, all that good stuff. But yeah, if you're into early 70s, mostly really hard rock, psychedelic stuff, these Brown Acid comps are absolutely amazing. Let's jump into Soul World a little bit here with another Record Store Day title, Written in Their Soul. This is some Stax demos from the Stax Songwriter Demos. So yeah, a whole bunch of good stuff here. Again, courtesy of Record Store Day, and just a really great soul comp from a bunch of people. My go-to Record Store Day comps all the time, of course, are the Jazz Dispensary titles, these jazzy, funky, sort of comps that have a different theme to them each time, and they're always just spectacular. So yeah, great stuff from the Jazz Dispensary, which is a subsidiary or a subset of Craft Recordings. This was a great one too for Record Store Day, although I think this is in print too. Black Jazz Records. Black Jazz Records was not around for very long. They didn't release a ton of records on Black Jazz, and the originals for those go for a lot of money. So here's just a really cool comp double LP of some of the great singles that came from Black Jazz Records in the 70s. This is one of my favorite comps of all time. I show it sometimes. Kink Chronicles. This is kind of a cool combination of I guess, is it pre-Lola at this point? King stuff. I think right before they jumped over to RCA. So still the reprise years. Regardless, a cool combination of greatest hits, but some unreleased stuff, some deeper cuts, all that type of stuff. So yeah, Kink Chronicles, one of my favorite comps of all time. Obviously not various artists, it's the Kinks, but good stuff. So this next section here is kind of the twofer, right? This idea of, similar to what I said before with UFO maybe, is like, okay, the band is bigger now. Those early records might have been on a different label. People didn't care about them as much. And now we're going to release them and make some money. And I think that this is like a $5 record. And I love these records, but it's Lost and Found from Humble Pie, which includes Town and Country and As Safe as Yesterday Is. Both of those I think are really great albums, of course, with Peter Frampton on there. But yeah, I mean, this is such a cheap record. You can find it anywhere. And a lot of people don't, it's just a twofer. Like, compilation, not really, it's a twofer. Speaking of twofers, this is a classic one, Pink Floyd, A Nice Pair. That's the uncensored cover. But yeah, this includes Piper at the Gates of Dawn and Saucer Full of Secrets. Although it's advertised, that's what the discs say, but it's also advertised oddly as contains the previously released LP, A Saucer Full of Secrets, plus selections from Pink Floyd, Relics, and Umaguma, plus the single Flaming, never before available on LP. But then when you look at the actual discs, this was on Harvest, it literally says Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Saucer Full of Secrets. So kind of an interesting one. Similarly, a lot of people know, like, Space Oddity was not the debut from David Bowie. David Bowie released an album in 1967, kind of like folky, psyche type stuff that he's not very proud of. But, to find that record, it's like $1 gazillion. But, after he got famous in the 70s, they released this, Images, 1966 to 1967. So this includes his entire debut, plus a bunch of other stuff from those times. So again, kind of a reissue / comp, but again, cheaper record. Who must have put this out? RCA maybe? I guess it was on London. I guess that's who might have been on early. So yeah, good stuff. Also in the twofer, one of my favorite bands, kind of Canterbury, proggy type stuff, but then went like more free jazz, then went jazz fusion, is Soft Machine. But if you're a Soft Machine fan, those first two records are really hard to find. They're expensive, especially that debut. So they did release the Soft Machine, which is just, again, a twofer. It's their first two records in a comp form. This was on Command, ABC. They were on Probe, I think. This came out in 1963, and those two records, I believe, were 68 and 69. So again, if you're trying to find those originals, which are great and amazing and rare and collectible and all that kind of stuff, cool. But then also, this is like a $15 record, I think, and it includes both of them, and you get your twofer. And last two I want to show here are obviously compilations, but they are box sets. This was a Record Store Day box set from Nuggets. Of course, if you are probably a record person or grew up during this time, you know about the Nuggets compilations that were coming out. I think curated or put together by Lenny Kaye. And yeah, this is just good stuff. This is, I believe, 5 LPs here, 70 tracks. It's the 50th anniversary of the album that started the revelation. So you have the first psychedelic era, 1965 to 1968. So yeah, you got a whole bunch of stuff on here. From, Blues Magoos, Magic Mushrooms, the Standells, all that type of stuff. So yeah, these are always super cool. And yeah, Record Store Day used to be doing a lot of these Nuggets compilations. And this is from a couple years ago. And last, and I think creatively, this is probably my favorite comp. And this is Intrigue. This is a compilation that was curated by Steven Wilson. Of course, Steven Wilson, great solo artist in his own right. Does a lot of, the remastering and all that type of stuff of some classic prog records, and then Porcupine Tree. But he put this compilation together, which is 7 LPs, Intrigue, and it is exploring the creativity and experimentation and progressive spirit of alternative British music from 1979 to 1989. So it's this idea of a lot of that post-punk, getting into some new wave, but the progressive, experimental, and creative sounds of that era. So you got a ton of stuff on here. Of course, bands that you know like Magazine, The Stranglers, Ultravox, but then obviously some ones that are a little bit lesser known. 12th Night or Rupert Hine, people know. Ooh, they do have This Mortal Coil on here. I gotta give this another listen. 7 LPs is a lot to get to, but I think I know Brian over at Embryonic Robot, we've talked about this. I think this is the fancy one that comes. Let me see if I can dig this out here. Yeah, of course. This is kind of funny. It comes with a Steve Wilson signed insert, which is hilarious because it's like, congratulations, you have a signed insert of a person who curated this box set. Doesn't write anything on it, doesn't compose anything on it, he just curated it. So there you go. There's your video. Whole bunch of compilations that I just pulled to show. Jack, congratulations. You're one of my favorite people. Hope to see you again this summer when temperatures are a lot warmer. Happy 3 years. Oh, and I forgot to give a shout out. Oh, God. Shout out to Ed over at On My Turntable. Ed's one of my favorite people. He's always commenting. He's always being super supportive, always leaves something fun, and just really supportive and a really nice guy. So Ed from On My Turntable up in the Northeast, what a guy. But Jack, this is for you. Take care. Thanks so much for all you do, and happy 3 years and happy holidays to you and yours. Take care, everybody. Drink eggnog. Goodbye.